Hello and a very warm welcome to you. It's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of Editors Forum. I am Rita Omodia, and of course on this program we get to discuss front burners, topical issues that affected the country within the week. And today I must say we have lots of stories, lots of trending topics to discuss that affected Nigeria within the week. Once again, I am Rita Omodia. I'll not be alone on today's edition of the show. I have with me Victor Anya, the people's man, is the editor of Prime Health News magazine. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Many thanks for inviting me once again.
It's your smile. When I see a man smiling, all right.
I'm looking for money.
Okay, I also have with me quite a light-skinned guys, competing colors here, but anyhow, I have with me Ayodele Lawal Adio, editor, The Avalon. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on.
Yeah, a smile, please. Thank you. All right, let's kickstart today's business now. As we do know, last week we discussed the issue of the ASU strike, and we know that federal government and ASU, they've gone back to the negotiation table, and of course, federal government has said, or rather removed ASU from the IPPIS and promised to give about 65 billion naira to ASU for the rehabilitation of schools. We also know that within last week, we talked about fuel price increase. Well, the federal government gave you reasons that the reason for the increase in fuel price is also because of the crude oil price internationally, which has also been linked to COVID-19 vaccine Pfizer, the fact that you have like 94% vaccine effective for the cure of coronavirus. We would still say that coronavirus is not over. Continue to maintain good safety and personal hygiene. Make sure you wash your hand and make use of your face mask. And if you don't have water soap, make use of alcohol-based sanitizers. Now let's kickstart today's business. Now we'll start with back here in Lagos. As within the week, we heard of the clash between motorcycles and task force, as the Lagos state government once again came on a clampdown on motorcycles, that's otherwise known as Okada, and of course Keke Napep drivers, saying that they have gone against the law. Now, we will recall that sometime back in the year, and even last year, the Lagos state government had said, or rather started a ban on motorcycle riders, thereby we're not having motorcycle rides on the street and even tricycle riders. So mostly we're making use of buses, and then Lagos state residents were complaining about the fact of this ban. And now we're seeing motorcyclists and we're seeing the task force clashing. What do you make of this development, Victor?
Well, I think it is strange that the government is taking this action, because even in developed countries, as China is, China can be termed as a developed country because of the status they are at the moment. They use a motorcycle over there, all over the place. Then we, that have not been able to achieve anything in terms of development, we are dependent on other countries in everything. Even pure water, toothpick is being imported. So in a country, leaders are supposed to look at the economic status of the country before you take certain decision. They have been restricted to certain routes. Why are they not being allowed to apply those routes? Now you are clapping down on them, arresting them, seizing their motorcycle, crushing them. The question we are asking is, what is the alternative provision for these people? Because before you take certain decision, you have to look for alternative. Yeah. Because these people you are trying to take out of the street. All right. They have families, they have wives, they have children that they are paying their school fees, they are paying their children's school fee, they are feeding them, and families members are also depending on them. When you stop them from this means of livelihood, what is the alternative you have provided for them? That's the question I keep asking. I've written articles on all these things, asking questions that what does the government have for these people as an alternative? Nobody has been able to provide answer to my question. For instance, you cannot hawk. Markets are being demolished every now and then. When Fashola was there, if you go to a place called Ajilogo in my 12, I've lived in that area before. That market was demolished. Up till now, trees have overgrown that place. No development there. If you go to Berger, the same thing happens. Many markets are being demolished, and people have no place to sell their wares. And if you walk by the roadside, you are arrested and tried in a mobile court. Why is government taking such action when you know that you don't have alternative provision for these people? The factories are all closing up. So what the government is supposed to do is to look inward and ask questions. Okay. It's like those people who are in governance system do not feel, because they are not feeling what we are feeling. That's why they take certain action. Because if we are to be in government, if they take me from this level that I am now, this downtrodden level that I am at the moment, I know the action I will take. Okay. I will not just pounce on tricycle drivers, motorcycle riders, and seize their means of livelihood, crush them without thinking about what they are going to eat, what their family members are going to eat.
Okay, let's hear from Ayodele now. We know that the Lagos State government created this ban. Do you see anything wrong with the clampdown on these motorcycles?
Honestly, it depends on how you look at it. Sometimes I think that the Lagos State government are between the devil and the deep blue sea, you know, a rock and a hard place, because it seems to me like Lagos is poised to solve the unemployment crisis in Nigeria. So everybody brings their unemployment crisis to Lagos State and expect the governor of Lagos State to solve that problem. So what you have seen in the last few years is that people who ride bikes and motorcycles in states that have been banned, they load these bikes in a huge truck and they are headed for Lagos. And they're coming in their thousands and in their thousands and their thousands to come and seek livelihood in Lagos State. That in itself, it's not a problem, because the history of the world has been riddled with migration into better opportunities, or places of better economic opportunities. But the question we now have to ask ourselves is, one, how are these riders or Okada riders being regulated in Lagos? My assumption is that the first time the decision was made to ban these people from certain routes, the argument that was made was the argument of security and health risks, so that there were record number of accidents and there were record number of robberies perpetrated by these bike riders. And so they restricted them from the major highways into smaller communities where you do not have the BRT buses and buses being able to access those places. So that also tells you that it's a problem of infrastructure and design in Lagos State. Right. So like he rightfully said, the government in itself has not provided the requisite framework that allows a broad transportation system where you can move in the huge amount of people in Lagos State conveniently. So you are left with no choice than to deal with a number of these Okada riders. And to that extent, I agree with him that the government seems to be placing the cart before the horse. Right. So if you leave the island every evening, if you're passing Idumota or Akbongbo or CMS, you realize that there are thousands of people cramped out at busing stations who do not have buses to go home. There are not enough BRT buses to take them home. And their only alternative is to hop on a bike through that express, you know, to access the mainland, because there's absolutely no alternative. And if there is no alternative, it'll be a bit tad silly to deprive Lagosians their only means of transportation. So, like I said, it's a case of the chicken and the eggs. Which do you do first? But for me, I think that the government must first show leadership in two particular ways, which is, one, put the basic infrastructure on ground that solves the problem of mass transportation in Lagos, so that people have no need to hop on the Okada to cross through the Third Mainland Bridge or through Eko Bridge to access their homes. Secondly, is to ensure that there are enough economic activities within the states that reduces the level of unemployment, such that people do not have to resort to riding Okada bikes for survival. And thirdly, I think other state governors will need to sit up and do their job, so that they do not dump the unemployment problem on the Lagos State governor, because you're sitting down in your house in Ondo, Ekiti, Adamawa, Gombe, and you're broke and hungry. The next thing you're thinking of a one-way ticket to Lagos to come and survive, putting your trouble on Sanwo-Olu's head. And that's the same governor that the federal government has denied special status and special funding to help its infrastructure. So maybe the government by policy might find a way to limit legally the amount of people who have to come and dump these problems in Lagos State, because now that there are security problems, we need to know the people who are riding these bikes. They need to have some sort of LASTRA registration number where we can track them down in the event that there's a security problem. So it's a huge policy riddle, and you'll need your best brains to solve that. But as we speak now, it looks like we're failing at the moment.
Well, but if I may add, it is not only in Lagos that we have this class of people. All over the countries, we have motorcycle riders and keke drivers all over the country. So it's not peculiar to this place. It's just that this place has been a commercial hub of the country because of the level of government presence in this place. If you remove the government infrastructure from this Lagos, you find out that basically nothing that the state governments have done. This year, don't forget the fact that this place has been under the leadership of colonial masters from 1886, when the Ghanaian colony that was joined with Lagos was severed, and Lagos was joined with the Southern Protectorate, and it became the capital since that time till 1992. So the fact why people are coming to this place is because it has enjoyed government presence at the federal level and colonial administration. That's why we have all this infrastructure here. And all over the world, where you have the commercial nerve center of a country, that is where you have more population. So the issue of Okada riding and the tricycle driver is not peculiar to Lagos State. It's all over the country.
Okay, well, we're still saying that it's not peculiar to Lagos, and of course, the Lagos State government should do the needful in solving the root of the problem. We're also advising on other state governments to try as much as possible to do more to develop the state. And now from Lagos State, we move over to Abuja, where we had a very disturbing story on Friday. Vendor was shot by the aid of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. And it was quite a sorry state, someone who was doing his business and shot wrongfully. Let's take a look at this report and we'll be right back.
Faces depicting sadness and disbelief, a group grieving their slain colleague. It is on this busy road that the late 35-year-old vendor, fondly known as Elechi, was shot at close range. The part of the road where he laid after receiving gunshots to the head still has blood stains.
This one, yes, he come close, he rush, just pass everybody, just like say he carry the guy for months. So he just rush, pass many guys at this, just rush, just shot him. Just where we are shouting, running, say, well, you don't kill our brother, don't kill our brother. You just raise some gun on air.
This thing will happen self. If government no take action about this thing, we will take action by ourselves, because this DSS now then do this thing. Now DSS is not police do this thing. Now DSX, we must show the guy face and the guy convoy. We know him. Always they are fasting here.
No, I was there yesterday when this shooting of thing happens. It was so shocked to everybody because the guy is a very nice man. I agree with me. The senator, almost 3 senators was here because people knows him very well. I agree with me. They are just showing the sympathy over the guy because people knows him very well because he's a very nice guy and that's why. But we were so shocked this day.
Steve Nweze here says the actual shooter had previously showed signs of being a trigger-happy cop.
But there is something I want to say here now. This particular guy that shot this guy yesterday, he has released a bullet here before, but he didn't shoot person that first time. There was a day we saw this Gbajabiamila coming. We started greeting him. He tried to show us love that very day. But the security people didn't allow him to do that. So he was trying to park. They couldn't allow him. So the other side, his driver managed and bring small thing out and give to us. Immediately he gave us the small thing, then he drive. This same particular guy came down from his car, remove a pistol and fire on the
Once again, you're welcome back to NHS Forum exclusive to Galaxy Television, and right now we are discussing the newspaper vendor that was shot by the security aide of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, and we saw an eyewitness account there of people talking about how good and how peaceful this vendor was. And I don't know, we might go back to the issue of NSAS, but we were talking about the issue of police brutality. Now, what could have made this security aide shoot at a vendor, Victor?
It is strange, but it's a common place with them. It's not a new thing. Wherever they go, they always shoot. And the question we are asking is that why are they always interested in shooting? In other climes, you see policemen, they don't even carry guns. They only go about with their batting. Because we are not fighting war. Even in war times, there are rules of engagement. You don't just shoot at people simply because you are carrying a gun.
Yeah.
That is the difference between our security agency or agents here in Nigeria and in other places. Do you know that ordinary security guard in a company, that because he's wearing a security guard uniform, we raise his hand and slap somebody? Ordinary security guard. Not to talk of people carrying guns. So that maybe because of the many years of military rule, that is why we created this lifestyle of brutality and harsh way of dealing with people. I don't seem to understand, because we see in other countries, even in Republic of Benin, they are more decent the way they deal with people. Okay, you are with a Speaker of House of Rep. When we mandate a policeman to shoot, not that he was about to be attacked. From the contribution from those people standing by, they said that he always come around to greet them, but the security agents will not allow him. Why should that be? Okay, if that can happen, if a security officer can take up his gun and shoot at somebody without provocation in the presence of a Speaker of a House of Representative of a country, what do you think will happen if such a personality is not with him? These are the things we are talking about, and these are the things that prompted the NSAS protest. Yeah. I've seen a policeman argue, just ordinary argument with a fellow citizen, and we told him that I will kill you now and nothing will happen. Without fear of saying I will lose my job or something will happen. If we stay, I will kill you now and nothing will happen, without hiding it. So I don't know why we have this kind of mindset, that because your job entails you or encourages you to carry gun, does that mean that you should abuse the use of that gun? You as a journalist now, can you just pick up your biro and write against somebody that this person is a thief simply because you can write? Can you just come on TV now and say so person is a thief because you have access to the media? The answer is no. But that is what they are doing to the citizens of this country, because they are entitled, their job allows them to carry guns. They feel that they are above the law. But what I've always told them is that everybody cannot be a naval officer. Everybody cannot be a police officer. Everybody cannot be an army officer. We all pick up our jobs according to our interests, and sometimes according to pressure. Because I wanted to read law before, but because I couldn't get admission to read law, I had to read what was offered me. So these are the things that made each and every one of us to pick up one profession or the other. Okay, let's
hear from Ayodele now. Let's hear from Ayodele now, because the House of the Speaker of Reps, the Speaker of the House of Reps, Gbajabiamila, has actually confirmed that the agent of the Department of State Services attached to him shot and killed Ifeanyi Okereke, and of course he also named the DSS agent as Abdullahi Hassan. Let's hear from you, Ayodele.
I mean, this again is the consequence of the frosty relationship that we have with our security agencies, who see themselves as protecting the regime and protecting people in power from the citizens that they are supposed to govern. It's a funny mentality, which is of course a heritage of several years of colonial oppression, where the police was set up, in Nigeria to protect the colonial regime. And even when we transited into self-governance, we did not bring down that ugly structure and mentality in the police force, where the policeman sees himself first as protecting the man in power than it is about serving his community. And that's why he always finds it absolutely easy to pull the trigger even when it is not necessary. And this is not the first time. And sometimes I get sick and tired of commenting on this issue. I mean, last year, a police attaché to the governor of Sokoto State, Tambuwal, shot at a man where they were sharing money, who was struggling to also get a share, of it. He shot him dead, even though the man was arrested. We don't know what has happened to that police officer till date. The driver of the governor of Akwa Ibom State, during his wedding ceremony, the policeman attached to him shot at an entertainer in his wedding because he came rushing to his car and asking for money. So any time that there is a confrontation between people in power and the citizens, it ends up in policemen opening fire unnecessarily because of the cultural malaise in the Nigeria police. And of course, it is enabled. It is enabled by that ugly order called the Police 237 Act that gives the police discretionary powers to shoot at innocent citizens. Because the order states unequivocally that you can shoot somebody who tries to evade arrest or to escape arrest, and you can shoot him dead. And once you give that kind of discretionary powers, all the officer needs to explain to his superiors or to any judicial panel of inquiry is that the individual tried to evade escape, or he tried to resist escape. And that can be justified for killing that particular individual. And even in the rights that protect citizens, if you look at the constitution of most democratic nations, it guarantees every citizen an absolute right to life. Even if you look at the South African constitution, it states clearly, right to life and dignity. Unfortunately, in our own case, there is a caveat. After the constitution guarantees us right to life, it also places a caveat that that right is limited, so that when you try to escape arrest, when you try to evade, or when a detainee tries to escape detention, and all of that, he will lose that life. So your right, there is absolutely no dignity and right to your life because it is placed on a caveat, and that gives the policemen broad and discretionary powers to perpetuate the crime and the horrendous acts that they continue to do. And we're going to continue to have this conversation over and over again until we change the culture in the police and until we change the structure and the enabling laws that allows them to have these huge discretionary powers to shoot indiscriminately as citizens. We've lost a newspaper vendor now. What's the worst that would happen? He's going to be put through what you call it? Is it
trial.
A trial or whatever within the police command? And he's going to justify why he needed to use force. And I'm not preempting their panel, but I can assure you that it's easy for him to prove that it was necessary to protect the life of the speaker, and he'll be left off the hook. At worst, he's going to be transferred somewhere else, and another Nigerian is going to be killed again. So we have to bite the bullet and make the very difficult decision of adjusting that provision that allows them these broad and discretionary powers, and emphasizing that the right of every Nigerian matters and the right of every Nigerian counts, and we must be treated with dignity.
All right, whilst you're talking extrajudicial killings and, of course, police brutality, we would now cross over to an issue that over a month ago has become one major issue in Nigeria and also gotten global attention. As we know that CNN, that's a media giant, has actually given another video of this so-called Lekki shootings, that they have another account of it. Now, we would know that for some time a judicial panel has been set up to find out about what happened at the Lekki toll gate, where, according to reports, according to what we saw, we know that the governor visited people who were injured as a result of the shootings. But the question still goes there of who gave the order for these shootings. Now, let's take a look at this report from CNN. And of course, the federal government has denied this report and has called it totally irresponsible.
Of protest against what they called systemic police brutality and corruption. What Godson and the protesters did not know is that the army is already on its way. This is Bonny Camp, a military garrison on the south side of Lagos. We know through analysing footage they left at 6:29 p.m, heading towards Lekki Tollgate. We can see here the Nigerian government forces approaching. The protesters are gathered on the other side of the gate. As Nigerian forces get closer, you can see shots. At 6:43 p.m, we start hearing gunfire. We know this from the timestamp and data on this video. Here's another angle.
They are releasing fire. They are releasing fire.
Nigerian authorities say they fired blanks into the air and not at protesters. But CNN obtained video that appears to show the army shooting toward the crowd. Here, and at the top of your screen, here.
CNN engaged in incredible sensationalism and did a great service to itself and journalism. In first instance, CNN, which touted its report as an exclusive investigative report, sadly relied on the same videos that have been circulating on social media without verification. CNN merely said the videos were obtained by CNN without saying where from and whether or not it was authenticated. Why didn't the CNN balance its story by showing a compelling testimony of Brigadier General Taiwo before the judicial panel in Lagos?
Welcome back to Latest Forum, exclusive to Galaxy Television. Of course, to be a part of this program, you can send your messages to Facebook, Latest Forum-Galaxy TV, or to 0814-6588-756. Right now, we are discussing the Lekki shootings. And as I said earlier on, a judicial panel of inquiry is still on ground. And according to what we have there, they're actually even still meeting and reviewing these videos before CNN actually came with their own report. Now, the Minister of Information and Culture, from the aspect of the federal government, has called this report baseless and lacking in merit, faulting the actions of the CNN. Victor.
Well, we always say so because if CNN had come out with a sick song to praise the government, they will accept it. But anytime they speak the truth based on their investigation, they will always condemn it. And that thing, that line of thought, the way the government is taking things in that way, is not the best, because one way of learning is you listen. If you are praised, you accept it. You look at why you are being praised. Then if you are faulted, you look inward and make correction. But in our own, we don't make correction. That's the problem we are having. In the first place, the question we should ask ourselves is that why was the army invited to that place? We were told that the police force was overwhelmed. I don't know why, how, and when they were overwhelmed, because when the protest was taking place at Lekki there was no confrontation between the police and the protester. They were peaceful. I even saw many video clips of where the protesters were giving food, giving drinks to the police officers that were around that place. So at what point were they overrun that made the governor or whoever called them, though, because they have been deniers every left hand right from both the government and the army, until they now accepted that they actually invited the army. Why did the governor invite the army in the first place? Because we know that the army is trained to fight war. The policemen were never invited to go there. Somebody invited the army. When the governor invited the army, what did they want the army to go and do there?
But the army insists that they did not shoot at protesters, but shot in the air.
Okay. The vendor that was killed, we were told that they also shot into the air. and a vendor was killed. So if they shot into the air and the vendor was killed, could those protesters not have been killed by shooting into the air? That's the question they have to. They have to give us answer for that, because the one that just happened, we were told that they shot into the air and somebody died. So if they had shot into the air at Lekki, could that not have resulted into the death of a protester too? That's the question they have to. Now, we have told them time without number that even before they invited the army, we told them not to invite the army, that there was no basis for that, because the protesters were peaceful. They were never opposing or attacking anybody. So why should the army be invited when you know that they are always, at every time, every movement they take, they always like to shoot, and you invited them? And another aspect we have to look at, all this video they are discrediting. It's like some of these people don't know what journalism is all about. We have what is called citizen journalism. If I'm around somewhere and an event is taking place, I have the right to video it. And as long as I've accepted to lay claim to it that the video emanated from me, it becomes valid. Any television, any radio station have the right to adopt it, because some television and radio stations have been sanctioned. DJ Sweet, that was playing music for them, who was their DJ, gave account of what happened, and she did not deny. That is journalism. She may not have been trained in journalism, but because of her training, any person in the scene of war or any event that has taken a video and he accepted, he never denied it, it becomes a tool in the hand of conventional television and radio station.
Okay.
Because I'm making this point because I've heard people say that even the Director General of Nigeria Broadcasting Commission talking on TV that why should the AIT rely on video that came from the citizen? Can a television station have reporters everywhere? The answer is no, even in a developed country.
So in other words,
if there is a war happening in a remote village and the citizen happens to be there and he uses his phone to record what is going on there, any radio or television station can adopt it as long as the person that took the video lay claim to it. It is only when there's denial that I'm not the one that took the video that the television or radio station cannot use it. But if there is somebody that have laid claim to it and is ready to testify, radio or television station can use it.
Okay, let's look at what the evidence the federal government has brought so far now, Ayodele. This is what CNN and social media has talked about there. What would you say from the evidence from the federal government? How would you analyze their own evidence there?
Have they brought any evidence? I mean, the federal government has found itself in a hole, and unfortunately is still digging. Because the first thing that happened was a blatant denial. The first interview given by the defense head office, the information person, said that it was fake news, that the soldiers were not there. After much pressure, they had to scale back and say that probably they were there, but they were not sure which of the soldiers were there. They were going to investigate that. You had the Minister of Justice reported as saying that there was a possibility that it was hoodlums who wore uniforms to go and perpetrate an act at Lekki at that point. So now they've even gotten to the point where they are accusing or threatening to sanction CNN, picking a fight with the wrongest of global media institutions that they have to pick a fight with. Now, all of this is totally unnecessary if you can simply admit to two things. I'm not even saying admit to everything. Admit to two things. One, that there were soldiers there on that night. Two, that the soldiers shot, whether they shot into the air or into the bush. But there are evidences of people with bullet wounds that even the governor of Lagos State went to visit in the hospitals the next day of that shooting. He visited, and there are pictures to prove that he visited people with gunshot wounds, at the hospitals. So if you can admit those two things, we ourselves will do the 2 + 2 = 4, and then we can ask the very honest questions as to one, who invited the military to that particular location, two, who ordered the shooting, and the officers that were responsible for those
Okay.
shootings.
All right. Well, as we said there, we're still waiting on the Judicial Panel of Inquiry as the case is still ongoing to unravel what exactly happened at the Lekki Tollgate. And of course, we know that within the panel, the army had actually come out to say that they were deployed by the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, but we have not heard any response from him. Now, talking about the Judicial Panel, as even the federal government had also blamed CNN for being one-dimensional in their report. Now, the NSAS lawyers have called on the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to appear before the Judicial Panel since he was called on it. Do you feel it is necessary? We know that last week, the NSAS lawyers also called for the disbandment of the Judicial Panel. Do you feel it is necessary for the Lagos State Governor to appear before the Judicial Panel, Ayodele?
Well, I think it would be expedient. I think it would help clear a lot of doubt, and it would be good to have the governor's testimony under oath as to the events that took place on that particular night. And I'm sure that one of the things that is important, or one of the things the panel might want to clear, is who actually, because the truth is, whether we like to play semantics with it, the Constitution does not empower the governor of Lagos State to command any military unit. He lacks those powers. And there's absolutely no way that the governor could have picked his phone to command any military unit. We know where the chain of command lies, in that respect. There is no doubt that he can request support for military deployment, but he cannot order, the military to any location or decide how they engage or their terms of engagement. That comes from Abuja, and it's totally out of the purview of the governor. And it would be nice for that to be established at the Judicial Panel, and to know exactly the role that the governor played as to why, or what data or what indices that he used to determine that it was necessary for the deployment of the military in Lagos State. So to that extent, I think that would be important to take his testimony. The military have testified, and I think the reports that came out of the testimony after the military were at the Judicial Panel was something to the tune of why is the governor trying to deny that he invited the military. So it would be nice for the governor to also have his voice heard in that panel, and it will give legitimacy to the work, or the incredible work that the panel is doing. And I do hope that it's important that I urge other media organizations to do a lot more coverage of the Judicial Panel, because if you hear the testimonies of victims of police brutality in that panel, you would weep, and you would wonder how much. You'll be shocked at the rot that has gone on.
Talking about those victims now, there's an allegation that lots of victims are not necessarily coming as much as people would have expected due to the fact that there's fear of safety of lives.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people have said all sorts of funny things that make me laugh. They tell you that if they are victims, why are they not coming out? Why are we not seeing their families?
Yes, because I know that the minister has actually said if you have real proof or evidence, you need to come out and verify your claims.
Yes, I mean, we've heard that a dozen times, and I'm wondering, on your news bulletin yesterday, you reported that a number of persons were kidnapped in Kaduna Abuja Expressway.
Yeah.
Did their families come to tell you that they were kidnapped? Did you ask where their families were? Nobody asked those questions. When bandits killed people in Katsina, when bandits killed people in Zamfara, or in Birnin Gwari in Kaduna State, nobody's asking for the testimonies of their families. We know that a dastardly act has been committed, and we empathize with the people who have lost their lives. So why is it that suddenly in this occasion, we are waiting to see family members of people who have been victims?
I think maybe because of how serious the situation is.
I mean, we've had more serious situations in this country. Don't forget that 340 people were buried in mass graves after the military shot at them in Kaduna in 2015. It's absolutely not new. So I think that there are reports even from the Premium Times, and you probably might need to read them, the Premium Times report on that, which did an exclusive report where a few people felt that they were threatened and could not come out to make their cases at the Judicial Panel. I need to realize that, because we're familiar with how the media works, we think that everybody also has that courage to face the media or to face testimony. We think it's easy to just talk to the press and give testimonies. But for many Nigerians, it's not like that for them. They have genuine fears of reprisal, of intimidation in their community. If they go out and speak something against the government, they don't know what is going to happen to them. And we've not ensured enough protection for these witnesses to come out and speak up for what they have seen. But I think last week, Saturday, there were 7 people who went to that place and testified. And I'm sure that more will come up, you know, when they are assured of their safety and their protection over the next few weeks.
Okay, sorry to go back. Can you state one fault in that CNN's report? We know that most of the videos we saw there were videos which were circulating on social media and which the federal government has really blamed. As a journalist, can you state one fault on that CNN's report?
I mean, I don't see any fault. I can't state categorically that there was a problem in their reporting because, one, they spoke to hundreds of victims to gather testimonies for their reports. They used the technology that was available to them, used GPS locations and Google mapping to detect the movement of troops and at the time at which they got to that particular point in time. They also gave requests or they gave opportunities to the federal government and the military to say their own side, but according to the report, none of them responded, you know, to report back, you know, to the queries of the CNN before they actually ran their story. So to that extent, journalistically, I do not see any problem with the reporting that they have done. So it's for the federal government, if they have superior evidence, to also roll that superior evidence out to show that there was a gap in the reporting of the CNN, and these are the true facts as established by our own evidence and our own reporting here.
Okay, what we have on ground, still we do not have proper clue that, but what we know on ground is that the CNN has brought their reports, lots of people at the Lekki Tollgate brought their reports, and of course a panel of inquiry is still ongoing to unravel what exactly happened at the Lekki Tollgate, and we're also waiting for the federal government's response. Right now, all we have on ground is the army stating that they were deployed to come to the Lekki Tollgate. But who shot at the protesters is still not known. All right, now we go over to other stories now, still relating to the EndSARS protest, as the federal government said that we would not allow a repeat of another EndSARS protest. You would recall that the EndSARS protest was aimed at the issues of police brutality by a known squad, Special Anti-Robbery Squad. And of course, the federal government listened to the pleas of the people and disbanded the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and instituted SWAT to replace SARS. Now the federal government is saying there will not be a repeat of EndSARS protests. Do you feel that this is a right move from the government? As I said earlier on, tensions are a bit high, as we know that as a result of the EndSARS protest and the Lekki shootings, there were destructions of public properties, hoodlums, businesses being looted. Do you feel that this would anger the people the more, Victor?
Well, it depends on the angle the government is talking from.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to do things that will make that will prevent future occurrence of protest, or maybe they want to use force. So we don't know the angle they are speaking from. If they want to use force, I know that it is very difficult for you to fight the citizen. Okay. Even though the citizens are not armed, the strength of any government is the support of the citizen. If you read the story of Central African Republic, where some people were bragging as army generals, soldiers, this and that, when the people rose up against them with their guns, with cutlasses, read the history. I don't know whether you have read it. They chased the army from their barracks. So there is no strong government anywhere in the world without the support of the citizens.
So in other words, you will call for negotiation between the two parties?
Yes, what I'm saying is that maybe the government is trying to, maybe the government has the intention to do things that will prevent future occurrence of such protests. Maybe they will reorientate the police that actually engendered the protest in the first place, because it is this brutality, like what happened just 2 days ago in Abuja, yes, where a vendor that was going about his peaceful business was just cut down. His life was just cut down. He has left wife and children. From the report I read, he was to name his son the following day before he was cut down. When that child grows up, the mother will tell him the story, or her, that your father was to name you the following day and a police just cut your father's life down. Tell me, how will that child feel? So if the government has the intention to reorientate the police officer or security agent generally, that the citizens are not your enemy. Even though if somebody is in the act of committing any crime, your duty is to arrest him, not to kill him, because you do not have the right. It is only the court that has the right to pronounce any person guilty
or not,
and make pronouncement as to the punishment is to go, either as execution, either hanging, or to serve 2 years imprisonment, or 3 months, or 6 months. It is only the court that has that right. The duty of the police officer is to get that person arrested and take that person to court. Their duty stops there. So if they begin to imbibe this truth that they don't have the right to cut somebody's life short, even if the person is the act of committing a crime against the society, then I think there will be no protest. But if they want to use force, if they continue to use force, by the time the citizen will get fed up and rise up against government, like what just happened by burning properties. I know people say that those properties are for the people.
Okay.
They will not find it funny.
All right, all we're advocating for is peace and not war, because war brings about more war, and of course nobody wants to go into a situation of war. Now, still rising from the NSAS protest, we know that the paramount responsibility of the government is security of lives and property of the people, and the group or the agency who has been put in charge to make sure this happens is the Nigeria Police Force. That's the policing unit, to make sure that the lives of the citizens, the lives and properties of people are secured. But now there's a recent alarm with the fact that police, due to the NSAS protests, are not seen again on the streets, and people are getting afraid for their lives. I think we've seen lots of reports of hoodlums, of really things happening, and people are getting scared even walking on the streets. Ayo, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's a serious problem. There's no doubt that the morale of the policemen are a bit dampened. They lost, I think, about 20 officers across the country. So it's natural for them to feel a bit, hard done by. But of course, that does not again negate their responsibility to their community and their responsibility to the country and the job that they took an oath to perform, which is the security of lives and property. But for me, I see that the real problem here, it's the culpability has to be placed on the political leadership, because it's the political leadership that drives the implementation of policing strategies across the country. So we need to ask the leadership, the democratic leadership, why the policemen have put up this attitude of not being in the streets and effectively policing their community. Because I feel that, again, it's funny that if you allow terror to reign across your states, if you allow your citizens to be attacked, robbed, or killed by criminal elements, and allow criminal elements to run rogue across the cities, how are you now going to govern at the end of the day? How are you going to govern? I mean, Nigeria now, I think from the last report yesterday, has entered another recession as we speak. So the problems in our country is mounting, and consistently there has been this apathy, this lack of political will, this sense of urgency within the political leadership to drive things and to make things happen. And this is why I have consistently advocated that governance has to break down to states and local governments, because the reality is this. The police is commanded directly by the president. He is in charge of the Nigeria Police Force, and he's resident in Abuja. Maybe during a few celebrations he goes to Daura, but he's resided in Abuja. And the way government is designed is it makes you completely removed and isolated from the realities on ground. There is no way the president can feel what you and I feel, because wherever he goes, there are security agencies sweeping everywhere, even 48 hours before he steps his foot on any ground. So he cannot feel the insecurity that you feel. He cannot feel the insecurity that I feel. He cannot feel the lack of policing that I feel. So it is difficult for him to have that sense of urgency from Abuja to drive policing the same way we in Lagos here are feeling since this incident occurred. But if the governor, for instance, had his own police, which is a state police, if the governor had his own powers to drive policing and not necessarily fly to Abuja every time there is a problem, He feels the pulse of Lagosians better. So do our local government chairmen. And they will definitely act faster and swifter to deal with insecurity in our state. But now it seems like we're at the mercy of the political leadership in Abuja. And we always have to wait. Because I get sick and tired every time a tactical unit will be deployed from Abuja. They will be coming into Lagos. There's an anti-riot squad that will deploy again. Every single time the IG is deploying from Abuja to solve a problem in Lagos. And the question you ask, you have people coming in from Abuja to come to Lagos to solve a problem they have no idea about. So how are they going to treat? Because they cannot even differentiate the criminal from the person they are supposed to protect. So that's why when they come into Lagos, they are flogging women on the streets. They are cutting the hairs of people on the street. Police brutality increases because they do not have the context upon which they are supposed to create the peace in that environment.
Okay.
But with state policing, we'll be able to secure that better.
Now, apart from state policing, which you have stated, and the political structure, what about the welfare of the police? Because we would say that security does a good job to try and secure the people. So what about the welfare of the police? Don't you see that as a reason why they're drawing back? I mean, you are supposed to protect people, but who is going to protect you?
The welfare of the police?
Yes.
Do you have a good welfare?
We're managing.
Listen, every Nigerian has a problem. There are 90 million extremely poor people in Nigeria. I think the rate of unemployment of young people in Nigeria is as much as 30%. There are about 22 million Nigerian youths who do not have jobs, and they are qualified to have jobs. There are another 27 million who are underemployed, who are being paid below what they are supposed to earn. Okay. So the welfare problem is the problem of every Nigerian. And listen, wages has even
started. So it's not an excuse for them not to be on the job?
While there is a point to be made, okay, it is not totally an excuse. Because you have doctors who are living below that's why they're constantly relocating out of the country. You have journalists who go 5 months without salaries in this same country. So it's a national problem. It's a national socio-economic problem that has to be fixed holistically. You don't just you don't throw money at every single group that rebels while the larger society suffers. That's not a smart or clever strategy. There has to be a deliberate socio-economic agenda to raise the living standards of every Nigerian, to ensure that inflation does not continue to eat away our purchasing power, and to ensure that Nigerians can plan long-term based on their finances, to ensure that public schools are decent so that people can send their children to public schools and people can access healthcare in public facilities, to ensure you can access public transportation. Once you have that kind of system in place, the pressure is less on the police or the society to offer or give bribes, and then we can have a better system. Okay. But now you can't just say that because they're not earning as good enough, that's why they are killing people on the streets. I would argue against that, because the VIO officers are not paid as much as they do. And when you see a VIO officer from a kilometer away, if you don't have your spare tire, or if you don't have your fire extinguisher, you take another route, because you know you can't bribe the VIO officer. Is it not in the same country with us?
Let's hear from Victor Ayana. How do we get the police more operational and functional now? Now, aside from the VIOs or those security aides, let's look at those who are supposed to mount the streets and protect people. How do we get them back, that morale back to the streets? Because we would say that though we have had lots of bad eggs in the policing system, we still have some good ones who have been doing their jobs properly.
Yeah, that is true. But the message I want to send to the police force is this. During war times, do the soldiers abandon their duties?
Exactly.
That is the question that nobody has thrown at them. Do you withdraw as a soldier? Do you say because there is war in a place, you abandon your job? The second question is that at the end of the month, are they not going to collect their salary? Are they reject to come back to the street? At the end of the month, won't they collect their salary?
Paid for by citizens.
They are going to be, they will collect their salary. So if they will collect their salary, is it justifiable for them to collect the salary for the job they did not do? No, we know that what happened is bad, but they were the one that caused it. This brutality. I grew up in this country. The things are going out of hand every day. This was not how we grew up as small children, that somebody, you just hold a phone, you become an enemy.
Let's stick to the solutions here now.
Yeah, the solution is that, first, as long as they will collect their salary at the end of the day, they should return to their duty post, because they cannot afford to collect salary for a job they did not perform. Second, when there is war in a country, the soldiers are the ones that fight war. They don't abandon their job because of war. We did not go into war. It was just a protest that resulted into burning of a police station. We regret it, but that will not allow, should not permit them to stay out of their duty, because they are still keeping their jobs, except those ones who have decided to resign because of this, because of what happened. So as long as they are still in their job, they are still keeping their job, they should return to their duty. Then thirdly, this one Alpha and Omega system we are running, whereby one man is the one controlling the police force from the top to the down, cannot help us.
Okay,
if we have state police, all the governors are not the same. They will be able to pay different salary to their police commissioner, and the activities will be different. This one we are hearing that the governors will abuse it. Is the federal government not abusing the federal police?
Still talking on the development of policing system. Now, we know that the Nigeria Police has unveiled a cybercrime reporting web portal. Will you see that as a welcome development, Ayodele? Quickly, please.
I mean, everything that curbs crime is a welcome development. If it can be sustained, if it can be well funded, and if the people who will be manning the operations are well trained, I mean, it's good for the larger society. So anything that reduces crime and improves national security is always a welcome idea. Just train them better, train the men enforcing better, make sure they have the tools to do their jobs, and make sure that we have peace and stability in the society.
What other welcome idea would you say to develop the policing system? I know lots of people have talked about the training of the police.
A whole lot of things need to be done. You need to retrain. Their training academies are in a very terrible state. It's an eyesore. You need to retrain the police. You need better academies. You need better tools and equipment. You need better supervision. You need better oversights, better judicial oversights of the police. You need better recruitment strategy, the people that you recruit into the police. You also need better funding of the police, and you need to decentralize the police through community policing. And you need to ensure that our police is more intelligence driven than it is about boots on grounds and bullets. So there's a lot that needs to be done that cannot be unpacked in a small conversation. But the starting point is better funding, better training, better structure of the police, and of course decentralizing the structure of the Nigeria Police.
All right, now all we want is a better government and of course a safe living for people, for the citizenry. This is where we'll draw the curtains for today's edition of Editors Forum. And of course, thank you very much, Victor Aya, for being a part of the show. Very passionate for the country Nigeria, I must say. And of course, Ayodele Lawal, dear, thank you very much for joining us on the show. To my beloved audience, thank you for always being a part of Editors Forum. And to all those who made today's edition a success, I say a very big thank you. So do join us same time, same station, God's willing, next week for another edition of Editors Forum. I am Rita Omodia. God bless Nigeria.